Hey guys, what's up? So today I'm doing a video on Cardfight Vanguard. So it's a little different from my usual content on Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic, but I thought I would talk about it anyways just because I do play the game a little bit. I do have a history with the game, but it's not something I really play competitively anymore. But I just want to talk about it today, and if you guys like it, then cool. If not, then just let me know in the comments. So yeah, this is gonna be a deck profile on my Narukami deck for the premium format. And yeah, I want to talk about a little bit about the history of the game, or at least my history with the game, and go from there. So I started playing Cardfight Vanguard when the first set came out back in 2012 or something like that. I forget exactly what year the game came out, but it was a while ago. And I used to play Kagero and Narukami, um, Oracle Think Tanks, Battle Sisters, just decks like that. That's what I used to play. And I played up until about Legion format or whenever they started to introduce Stride. That's when I stopped playing the game. Um, the reason I even started playing Vanguard was I took a break from Yu-Gi-Oh. I forget which format it was in. I think it was either Exceed or Pendulum. I started Pendulum was when I kind of stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh for a little bit and went to Vanguard instead. Um, Mainly because the game was getting kind of stale and I just wanted to try something new. Yeah, so the Vanguard was pretty fun. You can call it a pretty sacky game because you get the triggers and you know you crit people to death on turn 3 or 4 or whatever. But it has its fun. It's less interactive. It's just more like you play your cards, you trade, and you try to fulfill your at that point limit break conditions and try to go off from there. But the game since then resetted like twice, I believe. It went from B premium to I think overdress right now, or also known as standard, I think. I don't play those formats. I didn't play B premium. I didn't play overdress, so I don't know anything about the what's currently being played, or the rules to those particular formats. I know V premium. I think it's dead now, from what I've heard. So I think Bushiroad stopped supporting it. I think standard's still the most popular format. I play premium because I'm more used to some of the older cards and mechanics of the game. And all my friends play premium. They don't really touch B premium, and they play a little bit of overdress, but I'm not really too into overdress at the moment. But yeah, so I want to talk about this deck that I'm currently playing. Deck was mostly gifted to me by my friends to kind of get me back into the game. So they knew I used to play a lot of dragon decks like Kagero and Narukami. I used to play, I think, Dotes, and I played the Vermilion the Blood. That was probably my favorite deck. Just playing Vermilion, and then cross riding him, and then limit break for 5 or 4, and blowing up people's board and going for crits. That's what I played. So that was the last deck I touched and had in Vanguard. And so my friends kind of made the deck for me, built like 90%. They gave me 90% of the cards, and about 10% I bought on my own and try and construct the deck. And basically been playing on and off with them casually. I haven't really gone to any tournaments with the deck. Maybe I would try to go to one of those Bushiroad Festival celebration events. I think those are kind of like regionals, and play for free. But for right now, I'm playing mostly casual with my friends, and this deck is doing pretty well. There's not too many resources into looking up how to build premium decks, and so I kind of just have to ask my friends and maybe look online at some of the recent results posted on Bushiroad's website and try to just figure out how to build a premium deck. From what I know, most of the premium cards or premium decks do use premium V cards because I think those are the most power crept cards for premium. And from what I understand, premium is basically like a a like legacy, like all cards are basically not or all cards are playable in the format save for a few things or a few mechanics like I think energy or something like that from the standard format. But like I said, I don't really know standard too much. The other difference, I believe, is that you have a stride deck and you don't have a ride deck. So that's something I think Overdress has, where they have a ride deck. In premium, you're basically, if you get grade stuck, you're kind of screwed. You do have the assist, I believe, the stride, or not the stride assist, the ride assist, which I think you show your hand to your opponent, and then you can discard cards to ride from the top 5 or something like that. I haven't really used that too often, so forgive me if I get it wrong. I'm not really too well versed in the rules of Vanguard. It's been forever since I played, and I usually play casual, so I don't really keep up to date with the current rulings. I try to look it up as best as I can on Reddit and whatnot, but if I get something wrong, just let me know down below. And you know, or if you don't like have any suggestions to change the deck, also let me know down below. But so far, this deck has worked pretty well. I played against, I think, like Great Nature, Link Joker, Bermuda Triangles, Spike Brothers, Royal Paladins, Gold Paladins. But basically, whatever my friends have, I played against, and they sometimes have meta decks, they sometimes don't. My friend has like a max rarity Shadow Paladin deck that's built really well. I think it's a Lutri or Lucher. I forget the guy's name, but basically that deck's pretty strong. My deck has a pretty good matchup against his, namely because I can attack the grave, or sorry, the drop, and the rear guards really well. So he has a hard time establishing a board and doing his stuff. But if he does get established and he does bring out his strides, it gets pretty tough because you know everything in his front row is hitting with an extra crit, and you know stuff like that. So that's probably one of the more practice deck that I played against, just because and he's namely my playing partner, and but all my other friends do play. So, anyways, let's get into the deck and go from there. So for my grade 0, I have Spark Kid Dragoon. I think he just I think he has an errata where it gives you the quick shield too. I chose this card just because I think it looks cool as my starter. Basically, just when you ride, you draw a card, and if you ride second, you basically draw or get a quick shield. Yeah, not much to really say about my starter. All right, so let's go. I'm gonna do the trigger lineup first, and then we'll talk about everything else. So for triggers, I think I'm playing four, the four grade or stride fodder grade zeros, the historic draw triggers. So that's basically 8 crits there. 4 heals. Hopefully the glare is not too bad. Let me see if we can fix the glare a little bit here. Yeah, so the only thing I want to kind of talk about is the grade or the heal trigger. I find these ones to be the best because they help you survive early game. Because this deck is pretty much a late game deck. You're not really doing anything in the early game. You're just basically just riding up until your grade 3s. Your grade 1s and 2s don't really do anything. So I think this is the best grade 3 or heal trigger to go with. Being grade 3 also helps because it's searchable via the Mighty Bolt Dragoon, and it's also good for discard fodder for striding. And yeah, I mean, I think overall, I think this is probably the best one to go with. Not much else to say there. So that's 12 triggers there. And the final trigger is going to be your ulti, everyone's favorite, and just the 3 Wyvern Guard. Draw trigger plus perfect guard there. This one I think is probably just the best one that I can typically play. Like restanding your Vanguard is really nice, especially on a stride turn. If you restand your strides, you're basically just gonna win for sure. But I find that most of the time I end up just drawing this guy or just damage checking him. So, but yeah, everyone knows over triggers. Like these things are broken. They should probably take this out of premium, just because, like I said, if you stride and you, you know, you check this when you attack, oh, it's basically game over. Yeah, so that's 16 triggers there. And then finally we have the last Sentinel, the Almentria Sanctitude. So basically this is your kind of your perfect guard here. Um, yeah, not much to say about that, right? So four Sentinels, there you go. And then for the rest of the grade ones, I'm playing one Holney. I'm not too sure how I feel about this yet. I played against, like, it's good against my friend who plays Spike Bros when he's just going in for the bunch of the attacks, or my other friend that plays Narukami. But he doesn't play Bowing Sword, so he's not setting up his whole board. He's playing more of the sweep command build. But outside of that, I haven't really found too much use for Holney. I don't really like seeing this card too early in the game, and because sometimes I'm forced to ride this thing and it kind of sucks. So that's why I'm just playing the one, just to have, but I'm not necessarily needing it to survive as much. But yeah, I think one is good there. As for the other grade ones, we have 4 Mighty Bolts and 4 Natsuku. So for the Mighty Bolts, I split the 2-2. So I have the OG Mighty Bolt and the new Mighty Bolt. So the OG one is to search for Dragonic Vanisher, or Vanquisher, namely because you want to ride him first, and I'll explain that in a second here. And then this is just to obviously get your heal trigger if you need it, or to just grab a grade 3 for fodder and whatnot. The other thing that the Mighty Bolt Dragon is also a fodder. This counts as grade 3 when you're discarding for a stride. And then we have the Natsuku. I think that's how you pronounce her name, Natsuku. So she basically just to ensure that you always hit the rides that you need, because I don't like using the ride assist, and there's no ride decks. So yeah, your ratio for your grade 1s, 2, and 3 really do matter. In this case, I'm playing, I think, 13 or 14 grade 1s, and then I think 11 grade 2s, and 8 or 12 grade 3s if you count the heal triggers. So yeah, just making sure you have the right ratios is really important. And I rarely miss my rides, so I think this is like kind of like the best way to sort of get all the grades that you need for each turn. And there's sometimes where you do want to not ride into your grade 3, so these aren't as important. Sometimes you just want to sit on your grade 2s to deny your opponent the ability to stride, especially if you're going first. But that doesn't really come up that often. So I always try to ride into my grade 3s and just go from there, rather than delaying getting to my grade 3. But that is a valid strategy sometimes. Yeah, so got that. And then finally, I have 4 Demolition Dragons. These are really good. I love putting this behind my Vanguard, or putting it behind just anything that I think that's going to swing in and hit. It basically forces your opponent to either block, or you just start plussing. So either way, it's one of those cards that is just applies like pressure to your opponent's hand. And I guess if they're graveyard reliant, like Shadow Paladins, you can kind of like rip cards from their drop, which is really good. But yeah, just being able to force your opponent to either block or just let you draw a bunch. And this goes really well with Ray's Spark Dragon. On turn when you ride into grade 2, you have this behind Ray's, and he goes up to like 22k. And then he can potentially draw you 2 cards, and your opponent's kind of forced to block that early, which is really good because it makes their board or their hands weaker overall. Yeah. All right. For the grade 2s, I have 3 Zoltan, 4 Cho, and then the 4 Spark Rays Dragon. Let me see if I can organize this a little bit better. Yeah, so that brings up to 11. This guy, he's just here because he gets really big. I think as long as you're retiring rear guards on the field, he gets like 5k each time. So if you're going for a turn where you're going to stun verse, if you have this guy out, maybe like you have two of him out, you can easily give this guy like 20k power, bringing up to 29 easily. And if you slap anything else on there with stun versus a effect or Vowing Swords effect or whatever, he gets ridiculously big. And when you're going for like a final push or whatever, he becomes almost impossible to block. So we have him there. His second effect, where he shoves himself into the soul to draw one, doesn't come up that often. I think your opponent has to have like no front guard, but I guess I don't know. I haven't really triggered him all that often, or at least sometimes I forget that he has that effect. But yeah, so he's mainly there for the power boost. Cho Oh, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Um, just a good free restander. Plus, when you place him on the rear circles, he'll just get to bind a card, which is always nice. So you can try to bind a problematic card, and you get to choose which column, which is also really nice because I think with some of the other um, binding cards, you don't get to choose where you bind, or you have to choose the same column that the card is in. I think Choho or Cho-O is nice in the sense that you just pick the column and force them to bind something. So you can pick even the Vanguard column and force them to retire the rear guard behind the Vanguard column, I believe. So sometimes that's pretty nice. But yeah, namely, he's there for the restanding ability and just to do a lot of damage. And then Spark Rays, yeah, just good. Free draws when he hits the Vanguard, which is really good, especially if you have Soul. So him plus Demo Dragon is really good on turn 2. Yeah, potentially you attack and you drive check, and then you get one card from drive check, and if he hits, get 2 more cards, and that's kind of crazy there. So that's what I really like. That's like the best early things you can do to pressure opponent's hand is just to ride him, get the free 5k from his first effect. Search top 5. Normally I just get a grade 3 just as a either stride fodder or whatever. Or if I don't have a Demo Dragon, I'll try to search for a Demo Dragon off his effect and then just put it on the rear guard behind the Vanguard and attack with it. And if you have multiple copies of this on the rear guard, it's also pretty good because then your opponent's kind of forced to have to block at least one of them or 2 of them, you know. Otherwise, your hand gets obscenely big if they don't defend against it. So yeah, really good there. And then I'm going to go into the grade 3s, and we'll talk about that. So right here, I have 2 Dragonic Vanquisher. Sorry, I don't have my second copy on me right now. It's still in the mail. I was borrowing another copy from a friend, but had to give it back. So right now, I have 2 Dragonic Vanquisher. And the reason why we have the OG Vanquisher here is so that we can do I guess the historic ride or whatever it's called. From what I know, it's basically you have to play this like vanilla card that doesn't give you any Excel circles or anything like that. And obviously the Dragonic Vanquisher name needs to be there. So what you do is you ride him on your, if you went first, you can go Dragonic Vanquisher on turn on your first grade 3 while your opponent's still at grade 2. You can actually stride into this guy. So you can stride into Zoras. If you have him as your Vanguard, you stride into that. And for the cost of his ability, you do have to discard up to grade 3s. So you can't use like a stride fodder like your critical triggers or anything like that to ride into him. You actually have to pay the full cost. So you either do like another grade 3 or 1 and 2, or 2 and 2. So yeah, you ride into him, and if you don't have a Excel circles already, you get 2 of them. So for the Excel, you almost always choose number 2, I believe. So you get these Excel circles, and then you basically, these Excel circles come out. They give you, they draw you 2 cards plus they are 5k boost. So whatever rear guards you put on here get a 5k boost. So that's kind of nice. pretty broken. So you do that, so you get the two Excel circles, you draw two. When you attack with him, you basically drive check 3 more cards, and then you also, even if he doesn't hit, he will retire a rear guard, and then you bind 2 more from the graveyard. So just a really impactful card, especially going first, being able to stride first, draw two, essentially like a +5. If you think about it, so you get the 2 from the Excel circles, then you get 3 from um, the um, the drive checks, and then you get the retire one. So that's like 6 cards, but you're basically spending, if you discard one grade 3 to stride into him, then that basically evens out to about 5 cards. I guess 4 cards technically if you count losing the Dragonic Vanisher when you ride him. But yeah, so still like +3, 4, or 5 or whatever you call it, pretty good. Especially going first, it just does a ton. And there's a bunch of times where I actually ride this guy and just hit the over trigger too, and that kind of just ends the game almost immediately. But then again, over triggers will just do that in general because they're kind of broken. Yeah, so that's what we have the Vanquisher for. I'll show you my stride deck later, but yeah, so you got 2 Vanquishers, and then I have for the final grade 3s, 2 Descendant and 4 Vowing Swords. I used to play the Command Sweep. I love Command Sweep, or Sweep Command, sorry. Used to love that card. Unfortunately, we had the limited choice or whatever, so I ended up picking the Demolition Dragon over Sweep Command, just because I didn't like any of the other graded ones that was kind of available for Narukami. I guess you can do like Phoenix or something like that, but I felt like this one, he's kind of worth it. Plus, I still like Vowing Sword as my primary Vanguard. I think he obviously is a little bit weaker than Sweep Command overall, but him plus the Stun versus kind of combo is kind of crazy, or him plus Descendant on top is pretty good. So hence why that's why I'm still playing Vowing Sword in that Sweep Command. I used to play Vowing Sword plus the Sweep Command package, and you kind of just rotate between the 2 Vanguards, and that generally just like wrecks people's boards really quickly and gets you so much advantage. But because of the choice that the restrictions that we have, I'm going with this particular build. So the idea here is to essentially, if you go first, you go obviously into Vanquisher, then hopefully after that you go into Vowing Sword. If your opponent's not dead by then you go into Descendant on top of the Vowing Sword, and then Descendant gets to copy the Vowing Sword. And even if you don't have any other Vowing rear guards or any other Vowing names on the board or in the soul, he will count as a Vowing for the turn too, just because he copies Vowing's effect. So that way you can like attack for a bunch, or you and restand your whole board if you're at limit break 4, which is really nice. On top of that, if you do get to eventually stride the stun verse on top of him, then that's where it becomes like a game ender. So if you had Vowing, then you stride into Descendant, and then you ride into Descendant, and then you stride into stun verse. That should close out the game because you're gonna get so much power. It becomes almost impossible to guard against Descendant. And if they do guard against him, then you just restand him and just attack again, and then it just becomes basically game ending. And you can also restand your whole board again when you attack with at limit break 4, because I believe Vowing reads where every time he attacks, if your whole board is rested, you can restand it. So if your opponent blocks the Descendant, you can restand him, attack with your whole board again, and then attack with Descendant, and then trigger Vowing's effect again to restand your whole board. So it's kind of like a crazy combo. Like by then your opponent should be dead already, but if they're not, then this combo should technically kill them, because you're getting in, assuming you have like two 2 Excel circles. You're probably got at least 5 other rear guards to attacking your opponent. Um, and maybe even like 6 to 7 rear guards, right? So the only card that might kill you or might hurt you would be Honolulu. But since we're playing, the Stunverse and Vowing Swords and this guy, you should be able to get rid of all of your opponent's rear guards for you to just swing in. But it obviously doesn't work if they sack the Honolulu to target you for the turn. Then that kind of sucks. But for the most part, this should just end the game, regardless. Or you may not even need to attack with all your rear guards, honestly, to just close out the game. But that's kind of like my favorite combo there. Just doing that, pretty strong there. But if you don't like Vowing Sword or Vowing Saber, I should say, then you can switch them out for Sweep Command. You just have to replace the Demolition Dragon, which I honestly don't know what you would replace it with. I don't like Armor Break Dragon. That's the other grade 3 that people play to kind of cheese out the game, to like put like 5 or 6 crit on Armor Break and then just swing in for a ton of damage. I find this particular one just works against most decks where I'm just playing the long game to just keep riding and eventually maybe go GB8 or Ultimate Stride or something like that. That's kind of like the game plan of this deck. I'm not really trying to close out the game super quickly. But yeah, I mean, that's just my play style, and I haven't played against a ton of other decks, so maybe this strategy is not as good going in against other clans, but against my friends, I guess it works pretty well. All right, for the strat deck, I have one Harmonic Messiah. You play this guy just to, if you go second, you get a 20k Guardian Shield, which is really good. Discard fodder or just blocking fodder. If you're playing against Link Joker, yes, you can stride him and unlock your whole board. If you do that, though, you should be going for a game, because you're still going to be losing a bunch of cards from your hand to unlock your whole board. So you only do that if you think your opponent's got like nothing left in their hand and you're going for a final push. Then you can ride Harmonic Messiah just to unlock your board against Link Joker. I have the one Ultimate Stride here. Never really rolled this guy, but he's just there just in case. Against my friends who's playing Bermuda Triangle, sometimes he has like the resist ability. I think it's resist. I forget the term for untargetable. And so he just nukes the board basically and just kind of forces them to ride awkwardly. But be aware, if you do Ultimate Stride, you basically banish your entire G deck, and you're locked out of the G deck for the rest of the game. So only really use him when you feel like you can, close out the game there. Then we have the GB8. Really doesn't. I don't really go off too often into him, but there are times where I can get into him pretty quickly, especially if I'm just G guarding a lot. You'll be flipping up your extra deck quite a bit. And then if you Zoras, you can easily get to him by like maybe turn 2 or 3 of your stride. Against my friend who's playing Shao Paladin, he had like, a big ass grave. I played this, banished like 26 cards from his drop or something like that, and basically made my entire front row 52k, 56k plus, and I just slapped down anything. I slapped down I think a grade 0, and that became like a 60k attack right there. So easily great late game if you get there. You turn your whole front row into like a killing machine. And he also has the same thing with the Ultimate Stride. He also has the board wipe. So if you're playing against a rear guard or a clan that can give their rear guards resist, then you can use him to basically just board wipe. Because Stunverse, I think according to my friend, he says Stunverse still targets where Closer Dragon and the Ultimate Stride does not target. So I guess that's kind of an interaction there that I didn't really know until they told me. So yeah, they obviously have the one Stunverse here for an obvious reason. Not really much to say about him. And then we have the VMAX here, Dragonic Vanquisher VMAX, just for the cheese. Doesn't really come up that often, but I have one or two games where my opponent didn't have any rear guards, and I just swung in and just counterblasted 2 and just killed them. But yeah, it's just there for that. That's really it. Then we have the two voltage here. Not super important to have, but it's still nice sometimes where you buy in a bunch of cards and you're not close enough to close your dragon, so you go into Volta or Voltage instead, and then just swing in for like I don't know, like 18k or something plus. It does get out of hand occasionally with the Volta. So, and then we have the two exterminates. Um, I think if you're playing Sweep Command, you should play 3 of these guys because Sweep Command plus this guy is just nuts. But since I'm not playing the Sweep Command build, I don't think I really needed to max out on the exterminates too much. But yeah, they're still one of my favorite strides to ride into. Giving your front row 20k and drawing 2 cards is pretty broken. Yeah. And then we have the 2 Zoras, because you play 2 of him. Same thing with like Voltage, just because he requires his own name to be flipped face up in order to use his ability. So as part of the cost, hence why we're playing 2 of him. Exterminate, we're playing 2 of him just because he's good. Doesn't require a second name of him. Volta does, and I think that's really it. Yeah, so yeah, Zoras for the historical ride. I think that's what it's called. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah. And then for our G Guardians, we got the 2 Impedes and the 2 Bolt Work and the 1 Contact Dragon. I don't know what's the optimal ratio for these, though. I'll be honest. I think this is fine. So I know some people play 3 of these because you can use 3 of these in one turn and like flip the rest of these up and get like 6 GB by Then I don't really, that doesn't really come up that often. I often just use this first, if anything, just to enable the Sky Guardian here or the Impeda. But oftentimes I just use this, flip like one of these up, maybe use the second one, flip it up, and then you'll be done. That'll be 4 right there. Or maybe occasionally I'll go like 1 and maybe like 2 here, and maybe a 4th copy or 3rd copy here, and be able to flip all 5 up. Yeah, I'm not sure what the correct ratio is to play with the G Guardian, but I think this is working just fine for me, just the 5. Um, and yeah. All right, and yeah, that's basically it. So hopefully this video isn't super duper long, and I hope I explained some of the cards and my choices. Yeah, let me know if there's anything I should change, or if I got anything wrong, ruling wise or whatever. I try to look up the rulings the best as I can, and my other friends who've played longer, who kept up with the game longer than I have told me some of the ways certain effects worked. But yeah, I mean, the main problem is just trying to find a build that I really liked for a while, and playing around with this particular build. I think this build has been pretty good. Now I don't know if it's gonna work all that well if I go to like a Bushiroad Fest and play against other decks, but at least within my friend circle, this has been a pretty decent build. And they have a pretty tough time beating it. But yeah, anyways guys, that's it, and I will see you guys next time.